We often treat our social circles like a balance sheet. We scan rooms for status, filter contacts by their utility, and calculate the potential return on every conversation we start. To see what happens when those calculations are removed, we have to look at the relationship between Krishna and Sudama. Long before they were separated by fortune, they were students together in a forest school. They spent years fetching wood in the same rain, sleeping on the same hard ground, and eating from the same bowl. Because they spent their formative years stripped of titles and competing for nothing, they built a connection rooted in their shared reality rather than their social standing. As the years passed, their paths diverged to the furthest possible extremes. Krishna became the king of the golden city of Dwarka, surrounded by the machinery of power and unimaginable wealth. Sudama's life took the opposite turn. He remained in a village, living in a crumbling hut with a family he could barely afford to feed. This creates the ultimate stress test for any bond. Can a connection made in the woods survive when one person holds the keys to a kingdom and the other doesn't know where their next meal is coming from? When material lives become this different, a relationship is forced to a breaking point. It must either dissolve under the weight of one man's pride and the other's shame, or find a way to exist on a different plane. Seeing no other way out of their poverty, Sudama's wife begs him to seek out his childhood friend for help. Sudama is paralyzed by the prospect. He isn't just worried about asking for money, he's haunted by the idea of showing up at a palace looking like a failure. He manages to find one small offering to bring, a handful of beaten rice tied in a scrap of old cloth. Resolute tone. He walks hundreds of miles on dusty, bare feet, crossing rocky terrain to reach the gates of a man living on marble. To bridge a gap this wide, you have to be willing to walk into the home of someone more successful than you and reveal exactly how much you have lost. When he reaches the palace, the guards see exactly what you'd expect, a beggar in rags. They immediately block the entrance, viewing him as a threat to the royal decorum. But when the message reaches Krishna, the king forgets his crown. He runs out of his inner chambers, silk robes trailing behind him. Before his entire court, the king of Dwarka kneels on the floor to wash the dirt and blood from the feet of the poor traveler. In that moment, the king systematically dismantled the social ladder. He demonstrated that for a connection to stay alive, both people must refuse to acknowledge the status the rest of the world sees. Deeply embarrassed, Sudama tries to hide his small, cheap bag of rice behind his back, feeling it's an insult to the king's riches. Krishna finds it anyway. He eats the dry rice with genuine joy, telling his friend no treasure in his vaults could ever match the value of this gift. He's proving a vital point. The worth of an object isn't found in its price tag, but in the specific sacrifice the giver made to bring it to the table. After days of talking and remembering their youth, Sudama finally says his goodbyes and begins the long walk home. Remarkable as it seems, he leaves without ever asking for a single coin. He doesn't mention his hunger or his house. This scale shows how he preserved the bond. Had he asked for money, he would have turned their reunion into a business transaction. By staying silent, he kept the relationship in a state of pure connection. Sometimes, protecting the integrity of a friendship is more important than solving your own immediate problems. When Sudama finally reaches his village, his hut is gone. In its place stands a palace, and his family is dressed in fine clothes, their hunger gone. Krishna didn't need to be asked. He had looked at his friend's clothes, his tired eyes, and his meager gift, and he acted on what he saw without a word being spoken. This is the highest level of connection, the ability to see a friend's quietest needs and meet them without making them ask. The story shows us that real friendship operates outside the logic of wealth. It is a structure built on the belief that when you truly know someone, their burdens become your own, and status becomes irrelevant.